I've spent $8 whole on Rush Duel cards, and Konami still hasn't released it in English. I don't know what they want from me. Hey kids, welcome back to the channel. I am Uncle Frank, and I hope that you are having a great day. This should be a fun conversation because it revolves around games and having fun. You see, I wanted to talk about things you could do as a store owner to just kind of branch out, expand your net, so to speak. You see, most people who go into the business of opening up a game store do so with the mindset of selling card games they're already familiar with and catering to people they already know, and in doing so, they tend to do a decent enough job as long as they're well enough informed. However, game stores that do that have a difficult time kind of growing their audience beyond what they're already familiar with. And this happens for a reason. You see, humans are creatures of comfort. We don't like change all that much, especially when it comes to the things that we enjoy, which is why, especially as you get older in life, you are more hesitant to try new things. This is definitely reflected in the hobby space. As you grow older, you find yourself subconsciously resisting the urge to try any new games that come your way. Now, for a game store owner, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, especially if you're very familiar with the card games, board games, or RPGs you sell in your store. Especially like if you open a store prioritizing selling Pokemon cards and you're very familiar with Pokemon cards, you keep up to date with all the news, you know every set in and out, that's good. However, if you're a more generalized store, you can find that if you only sell a handful of card games, sometimes it's difficult to grow your audience or just keep the bills going. There's not a lot you can do in that regard. After all, sometimes a bad month is just a bad month and there's nothing you can do about it. However, something that's worth considering is learning about as many games in the market as you can. Now keep in mind, I am not advocating for buying some of every card on the market and trying to sell it at your store. Instead, I'm trying to say that what you should be doing is looking into these various TCGs that are out there, learning the basics about them, and trying to get a feel for how many of your regular customers might be interested in buying them. You might be apprehensive, especially if you've been in business for a long period of time, to even consider doing this, because after all, most TCGs that come to market fail, and as an LGS owner, you are the one who gets straddled with that dead product once that card game is over and no more players are interested in buying it. However, that burden can be avoided by just being selective and careful with how much you buy of a given product. Also, not buying with things like credit, not going into debt to get cases of the new stuff in. The point is, if you're careful enough, buying new card games, or even card games that you're just unfamiliar with, shouldn't be too much of a problem as long as you try to become informed and you don't put yourself at risk to get that stuff on your shelf. Something to consider is that when I say to get informed, I'm not just referring to new card games that are coming out, new sets for card games you've never heard of. I'm also referring to old card games, out of print TCGs that people in your area might be interested in buying from you. You see, the thing is, a lot of these older TCGs are dirt cheap. And if you have the right contacts, or if you know someone you can buy a large collection from, you can get these boxes for pennies on the dollar, and then you can sell them to your players for a very small markup. You know, I bought... What's a good example? All right, here we go. This is a good one. A few years ago, I started buying the Mega Man NT Warrior TCG. These boxes are absolutely dirt cheap, and for someone like me who just likes the game because it's a really fun game, I'm fine with paying, like, you know, whatever small markup a store has, as long as they're able to supply me with my cardboard addiction. If enough of your regular customers are interested in playing an old TCG like this, it might be worth it just to buy a few boxes just to have on your shelves for the occasional customer who does come in and buys it just to play in your store. Now, I'm not saying buy cases and cases of the stuff, but I am saying, you know, ask around, see what people are interested in, learn the basic rules of the game, learn the mechanics, all that jazz, and then just throw a few boxes up on your shelf and see who bites. After all, when it comes to products that are old and out of print, as long as you're getting them cheap enough, you're not really putting yourself at too much risk. Another benefit to researching the various card games that are on the market, alive or dead, is that you get a good feel for what you should avoid, or at the very least what you should be more apprehensive about. An example I have of this is, I think I have a box of Akora over there still. Yeah, this thing is hefty. Someone brought this card game to my attention, Akora, and after doing just the bare basic research, I was able to identify this as the kind of card game that was definitely not going to stick around. But I picked it up anyway, just because I'm the kind of guy who buys all kinds of random crap. But I can tell you, just by looking at this, just by going over the basic rules, the basic mechanics, and the fact that it's another Kickstarter TCG, that this does not necessarily have a long life ahead of it. In fact, I think this particular game is already dead. I might be wrong about that, but I'm not going to look too far into it. What I'm trying to say is do some research. Talk to your players, figure out what card games are on the market that are within whatever your crazy budget range might be. Figure out who might be willing to play those cards and buy them from you, and make that decision for yourself whether or not it would be a good idea to sell that stuff in your store, or even kind of encourage your players to buy that from you. Because at the end of the day, what matters most for your LGS is whether or not your players are having a good time there. Yeah, paying the bills is important too, don't get me wrong, but those bills are paid by the people who have fun in your store. That's really all I've got for you kids today. I should probably mention that I really want to talk about the Mega Man TCG in more depth at some point in the future. I already did over on Lore Seeker, but I really like that game a lot. So you will probably see a video dedicated just to that in the near future from me. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this little conversation. If you did, please consider leaving a like, a comment, sharing this video with a friend, subscribing, hitting the notification bell, all that jazz. And remember, I need to get healthy, and every like you leave on this video helps me get healthy, because I do a push-up for each and every one that this video gets. See you guys in the next one. My last video got 19 likes. Well, that's 19.